Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in this amazing, beautiful planet of ours. This is Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, here for another Monday morning version of Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. How are you guys? I hope that you had a great summer weekend. We are officially in summer solstice kicking off. Just going to be talking about a few things that came up in my meditation this morning. So if you guys want to just take a brief second to say hi, throw some likes, throw some hearts, make sure the sound quality is okay, and also make sure to invite people into this spiritual community, this inspirational, motivational community, which I'm going to give inspirational motivation messages for the week ahead. And then at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I'll be back here for the Prospecting Q&A after show, where I have a direct conversation with all of you, all the amazing spiritual prospectors all around the world. Free readings, spiritual chats, maybe doing some mediumship, maybe just doing some psychic intuition. You never know what the day is going to bring. So let's carpe diem the crap out of today. Welcome to Metaphysical Mocha Monday. I am your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector. Let's grab your coffee. Let's grab your tea. This morning, I'm rocking out with Garth Brooks from the World Tour. Just want to thank you for tuning in to today. I'm going to give you a message, going to give you a recommended book. Also going to give you a crystal or stone to think about for the week, and also a numerology number. So give it a second here, just allowing get more people tuning in. Please share out the page, guys. Make sure to share, subscribe, like. I've gone ahead and put in my YouTube link. If you want to get over on my YouTube channel, this will be premiering on my YouTube channel after it's off Facebook Live. I don't do the Prospecting Q&A after show on my YouTube, only the Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. And this morning I wanted to talk to you about a quote that actually had come up in my awareness, that had come up as part of my reality. And when I hear stuff, when I'm thinking about doing shows, I'm thinking, okay, how can I inspire people? How can I motivate people? How can I get people thinking outside the box? And there was actually a quote, some of you may know it. It's by Robert Browning. It's a poem that he had written. And the poem goes all the way back. It's when he had asked somebody, Andrea del Sorta, to say, a man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for? And so that's the actual quote. But today's message, I wanted to apply it not just because the quote just says a man's reach. And I've got a lot of men and women in my spiritual group, in my following. So I put it to a person's reach should exceed their grasp. And what does that mean to you? When I say stuff like, let's carpe diem the crap out of today, what does that mean to you? For me, every morning, every day is a gift. I talk about the future being visualized, but not actually achieved or reached until you actually get into that moment. And the past, you can't do anything with the past, because it's just your memories keeping your past real and keeping your past alive. But there's nothing you can do to change that, right? So today, a person's reach should exceed their grasp is today's message. And I'm going to just talk about what I mean about that, as far as, I may touch a nerve on your belief system. I always, recognize all religions as one. That's a cool thing about spiritualism. Spiritualism is always ready to evolve, where religion is kind of more of a set doctrine, which is fine. But as far as I look at all religions, depending on where you're raised in the world, is the same message: love, morals, ethics, values. Just a different version of that song is played, usually based, Christianity, Hinduism, Judaism, Buddhism, whatever, however many different religions are around the world. But it really is, just highlighting, your achievements and your imagination, how you can reach a certain desire. And that's what I mean by carpe diem the crap out of today, because that's all you have, and I try to put as much into today as I can. So take a deep breath with me. Breath is the power, breath is the start, breath is the fuel for the spiritual fuel tank. And let's just move into the magic of the moment of today's message. And we do that first with coffee or tea, because that's an essential foundation for Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, hence the name Mocha in the title. But it's really about, what are you going to do today to exceed or to grasp something bigger than yourself, even if you fail. It talks about, in the poem itself, it talks about a man's reach should exceed his grasp, even with failure. And for heaven's sake, whatever heaven is for you, whether heaven is, just heaven. I was raised in Catholicism, so we were taught that heaven was up and hell was down, and whatever your belief system is. Some people call it utopia. Some of you watching, some of you skeptics out there, or some of you that aren't religious in nature, maybe more agnostic and wanting scientific proof of God or the higher consciousness. Some of you may actually just call it like a black hole universe. It just really, but I can tell you, it's really hard to deny the power in the inert idea of what paradise is for you. We all think about life after death. It's always on my mind. Like, when am I going to pass over? I don't like to say dead or dying, because for me that implies an end, and I found too much evidence of life after death in the work that I do as a medium, as a psychic, and I've just found that there's just an undenying power of an idea in paradise. And whether it's the power of the promise, whether you read the Bible or you read the Hindu Book of the Dead, or there's certain things that you just follow that give you this this function or attraction of magnetism of what happens after we pass into the spirit world. And again, a lot of it's based on your own belief system. I'm not here to tell you what your belief system is. You have to feel that and prospect for that on your own. I'm just talking about, what is your reach and how can it extend past your grasp? What are you doing to take leaps of faith, to take things that you may be scared of or fearful of? We were just talking about this weekend. I, took a leap of faith. I took my reach was I grew up in Spokane, Washington, on the east side of Washington State, and I took a leap of faith, and I reached into the U.S. Coast Guard for 8 years. I literally left everything, guys, behind. The only thing I had were the clothes on my back and a few essentials on my travel to Cape May, New Jersey. And by doing that, I knew that in my journey, my reach was going to be greater. I was going to travel the world. I was going to meet amazing people. I was going to have amazing experiences. And I would do it again. If somebody asked me to do it again, I would do it again. And that's what I'm here to challenge you to today. I'm here to inspire you, to motivate you, and just to think on, fear for me is false evidence appearing real, and failure is first attempt in learning. So I don't really get caught up in fear, because I've really had real fear in my life, and either fight, flight, or freeze. And failure for me, failure was always such a bad word growing up, that if you were a failure, that the rest of your life sucked. And it doesn't need to be like that, guys. Failure can be first attempt in learning something of what you're journeying for, what I call soul adventures, what you're prospecting for. I always say spiritual prospecting for your own spiritual gold. And, there's a few quotes I'm going to read to you by some very famous people that talked about this concept of what is after our life, what is after death, paradise, your mansion, heaven, hell, purgatory. And it was C.S. Lewis who wrote Till We Have Faces. He talked about, it was when I was happiest that I longed most. The sweetest thing in all my life has been the longing to find the place where all the beauty came from. So just take a second for that. For those of you that know C.S. Lewis, he's one of my favorite writers. He wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, the Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe. The book is like this thick, and all the stories and the imagination that goes into the Chronicles of Narnia. But C.S. Lewis talked about to find the place where all the beauty came from. And I can tell you, working as a medium, and we'll on the Prospecting Q&A after show at 8:30, come back and hang out with me. Ask me a question. If there's a loved one I can connect with, I will do my darndest, my best to represent the spirit world as an ambassador, as a communicator, as a medium, as a voice of those that no longer have voices. And I'm happy to try to connect. Am I going to be right 100% of the time? No. This is not a show made for television where all you see are the yeses. You will get some no's. You will get some I don't understand. But I always remind people that the spirit world and those that reside there in what I call the etheric world are just a thought away, and they can always interact with you. You don't need to be a special medium and do the work like myself. I only came into this path, guys, because of severe trauma and the rewiring of my brain, which we call neuroplasticity. So it's just, and I teach on that, and I share that from a metaphysical standpoint. I just had a message pop in the other day for a dear friend of mine who had lost his daughter. And I sent him a text and asked him, hey, what is the significance of today or yesterday? Because she wanted to reach out. And there was a huge significance, and it was tied around Toy Story 4. They were supposed to go see Toy Story 4 together, and he'd forgot about that. but his own daughter reminded him from the spirit world that he needed to go see it. So I hope that he went and saw that, because that was a recommendation I gave him. As simple as going to see a movie, guys. That's how cool, that's how powerful, and that's how much love resides from the other side. So for you, if you're watching this message today and you're feeling a little down, you're feeling a little low, maybe you're going through the grieving process, which I've gone through many times, of losing family, friends, and pets, think on them. Write their name down. Say hello in the physical world. And also start, taking your experiences, taking your tragedies, and turning them into triumphs. Don't be a victim of it. Learn from it, grow from it, transform from it. Just like a seed has its insides ripped out, it doesn't become a big, majestic tree until it literally has its roots ripped out of its seed and plants. And a lot of it's the same for our journey, for the human condition, for the human experience, and for the human soul adventures that we do. So please share out, guys. Make sure to get on my YouTube library. It's a growing channel with over 60 videos now. I've got 4 seasons of Inspired Living Radio, lots of podcasts with amazing guests. We just had the amazing Daniel McKinnon, animal communicator, on a few weeks ago. That was a lot of fun. We have some some great guests coming up. That's every Wisdom Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. It's internet radio, so you can listen to it from anywhere in the world on any device, no password, username needed. And we go live at 12 p.m. Pacific. You can call into our free line. Look for our Inspired Living Facebook page called Inspired Living Radio. Also, get on my Closed Soul Adventures page, guys. It's a great way to share your ideas and your thoughts with a community of over 3,000 spiritual prospectors. And if you want to, if you have an Alexa or Echo Pod, you can now hear me. I just recorded my voice. You'll actually get to hear my voice through Alexa and Echo just by asking to open up Ariel's Positive Living, and you get spiritual tips from me on a daily basis, and how to look for the spirit world and how to interact with the spirit world and the what I call the signs, symbols, synchronistic events. So it's when you start to look for it, it's pretty powerful. But today I want to talk to you about the poem off Robert Browning's poem that says, "A man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for?" And I put it into the context now, instead of just a man, they put a person's reach, because I have a lot of men and women in my community. And a person's reach should exceed their grasp. So just take a second to take a breath in, because it all starts with the breath, guys. The breath comes in, it's the fuel tank, it's the fuel that generates the mind, the thought capacity. Your thoughts become your words become your actions become your behaviors. And just think about what you want to carpe diem the crap out of today. Carpe diem is literally seize the day. What do you want to seize today? And I do this show on Mondays for this specific reason. It's a low energy day. It's a low thought. It's a negative thought day for a lot of people because of return to the grind. So I chose this day, this time frame specifically to encourage you, to inspire you, to motivate you, to get you thinking outside the box and taking bigger steps for the life that you envision, and the happiness and joy and the secure relationships that you're looking for. So, it's, you can, for all the people that do have a religious background or a belief system, the Bible is amazing. It's one of amazing books published, from its time. Is it the reality of everything? No. Is it God's word? I don't know, because it's a book edited by a man. However, I know that there is great knowledge in the Bible, but there's also great knowledge in other books like the Quran, the Hindu Book of the Dead. There's a lot of spiritual truths in a lot of different teachers. But there's one, Ecclesiastics, that comes to my mind, Ecclesiastics 3:11, that talks about, and it comes as King Solomon's talking about this, and he says, God put a sense of eternity in people's mind, yet mortals still can't grasp what God is doing from the beginning to the end of time. So it's kind of they talk about it, even in the Bible, just the sense of, the eternity in people's mind. What is eternity for you? Some people that I know, some of my friends, dear friends and colleagues, don't believe in an afterlife, and that's completely okay, because I find that, religion is, you need to believe what I believe or you're wrong, and it doesn't need to be that way. In the spiritual path, we're always learning, we're always growing, evolving, transforming. But there are some of my colleagues and friends that don't believe in a life after death. They believe that you die, the body goes into the ground, or you're cremated, and that's it. That's the end of the journey. I, from a metaphysical standpoint, can't look at it that, whether you want to call it a soul, whether you want to call it the energy in your heart. I know from the laws of physics that you're either here or you're there, and that energy always has to transfer somewhere. And the energy that's in your heart that makes your heart go has to move somewhere. Whether that's return to consciousness, whether that's, returning to utopia or heaven or a black hole in the universe, we'll find out. That's the grand adventure. But today I'm here to, just encourage you to move into your dreams that you want, to take a leap of faith, to put fear and failure behind you. I always think it's, the poem is, for me, it's beautiful. because it's a poetic way of asserting how we should strive to achieve great things, even if we never succeed. The world is so much just about succeeding, making the almighty dollar. But I don't know if making the almighty dollar, it's convenient, it is comfortable for sure, but I don't know if that actually makes the soul happy. I've done radio for 5 years now, and I've interviewed a lot of people, and they talked about people that had all the money were some of the most unhappiest people in the world. And that just always makes me think that some of the most happiest people in the world have simplicity in their life. And so for me, the poem is all about a man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for. I really think it's the poem is to push us to achieve great things, to at least try, to take that leap of faith, even if you never succeed. If you're in the entrepreneur path, like I am, I'm a spiritual entrepreneur, being my own boss for my spiritual practice, the Intuitive Prospector. But it's always taking that leap of faith and always taking risks, because you never know what the day is going to bring. I think a man and a woman should reach beyond things that they can actually reach with their hands, but attempt to grab a hold of their dreams, which are usually beyond our reach because we're limited by our capacity of thought. We're limited by what society might think, social conditioning, human judgment, opinions. But I honestly think that the attempt to grab hold of those dreams that you've been thinking about that are beyond our reach is what makes us strive to improve ourselves and our art. Whatever your art is, whatever you're prospecting for, if you only pick up the things you can already reach right now rather than reaching for the things beyond you, you will never stretch your soul. Let me say that one more time. If you only pick up the things you can already reach right now, rather than reaching for the things that are beyond you, you will never stretch your soul. Some of you may not want to stretch your soul. Some of you may want to keep the blinders on just like a horse plowing a field and never look at the bigger picture. That's fine. It's all free will and choice. But I thought today was just, I thought the poem just kind of resonated. I didn't know much about it before it came into my awareness. I'd heard the quote from somebody else, and I just kind of started searching into it. Like, what does that really mean? What does it really mean that a man's reach should exceed his grasp, or a person's reach should exceed their grasp? And it even if for those that are religious based, I don't bring a lot of religion into my shows, but I say it should be a part of your path to look at different Bibles, look at different philosophies worldwide, and just get that education and make the determination for yourself. Because I always teach that education leads us to knowledge, knowledge leads us to wisdom, and hopefully wisdom will lead us to in some sort of enlightenment. Even Matthew 19:26 comes up for me in the Bible when it says, "With men this is possible, but with God all things are possible." And I always say that the God is within. You guys want to read a great book outside of the Bible that really talks about the power within? Your book recommendation for this week is what I call the Gnostic Gospel According to St. Thomas. This is an excellent read. It wasn't included in the Bible. Out of the 66 letters in the Bible that were included, that was left out because it talked about the God within too much. There was too much power that Jesus was literally talking about, the God within, the power within. And, a lot of it on the spiritual path is finding that God source, that Christ consciousness, the power within, if you are looking for that. Some of you aren't looking for it right now because your shakening hasn't caused your awakening. But those that are tuning in today and hanging out with me this morning, you know exactly what I'm talking about. When the shakening causes the awakening, when you have tragedy or transformations, or you're grieving a lost one, or you're grieving a loss of a relationship, a lot of your belief systems start to change. Even as we get older, age begets wisdom. And when we have wisdom, we start to make different choices and different pathways for our spiritual journey. So one of the quotes that I love, Nikola Tesla. If you don't know who Nikola Tesla is, research him. He's the whole reason we connect today. He's the founder of Frequency. He talked about, if you want to unlock the secrets of the universe, you think in terms of energy, frequency, vibration, not social media, not emails, not a 9-to-5 job. But he talked about this quote exactly, and I thought it was just kind of interesting. He said, so this is coming from Nikola Tesla. He said, "You're familiar with the phrase, man's reach exceeds his grasp. It is a lie. Man's grasp exceeds his nerve. The only limits on scientific progress are those imposed by society. The first time I changed the world, I was hailed as a visionary." And he was. Nikola Tesla was hailed as a visionary. But he started bringing more ideas and more concepts. And the second time, I was asked politely to retire. The world only tolerates one change at a time. So here I am enjoying my retirement. Nothing is impossible. What you want is simply expensive. And so what he meant by that was the change begins with you guys, not in the world. You're not going to find the change because the world is constantly changing, and we're trying to keep up with status quo and the latest trend and the latest technology and the latest tweet and Instagram and Facebook posts. But it really does begin with you. The change begins with you, and that's what he was talking about, was the change that comes from you, and actually, the nerve, the courage, the bravery to step out and take that leap of faith, even if you fail, because you don't know until you try. And even in the entrepreneur, for those that are entrepreneurs that are follow me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes you don't know what the next day is going to bring. Am I going to get a paycheck? Do I have benefits? But take that leap of faith, because you don't know where you're going to end up in life unless you do. Great example I was just talking about. I talked about earlier in the show how I left for the U.S. Coast Guard with nothing but the clothes on my back. I left everybody, and I left everything that I knew and loved and that I was raised with. But by doing so, it set me out on the path of see the world, like I said, to meet amazing people, to go to amazing locations, to do things that I wouldn't normally do in life. And it's from those experiences that it put me here in Seattle, Washington, doing the work that I do today, all because it was a leap of faith. And was there fear? Hell yeah. Was there failure? Plenty of failures. I'm always failing. First attempt in learning, I always say fail often, fail big. But the poem itself is just reminding you to aim for your top position, whether that's heaven, whether that's utopia, whether that's a black hole out in the universe, because the quote itself is just telling you that we are designed. This comes again, this comes from Hebrews 11:1. We are designed to journey towards miraculous manifestations in our respective self-asculation of this terrestrial plane. So, it's just, it's there. The evidence of things unseen and the substance things that we hope for. That's Hebrews 11:1 that talked about the evidence of things unseen. So I always talk about, explore the unknown, see the unseen. The Bible talked about this all the time, but yet I still get attacked from religious people for being a medium, because the Bible's an oxymoron. The Old Testament says don't talk to mediums. The New Testament talks about your spiritual gifts. So, it's really about, we are designed consciously as energy beings, as spiritual beings, as physical beings, as emotional beings, as spiritual beings, to always journey and to think on the miraculous manifestations, or paradise, or heaven, or whatever you want to call it, that exceeds outside of life after death. So I'm just going to challenge you today. Today's message, and I'm going to give you your totem animal spirit, and then we're going to head over to the prospecting Q&A after show. But a person's reach should exceed their grasp. So a person's reach should exceed their grasp. So just think about that for a second. Let that marinate. Let that percolate. What do you want to do? Where you gotta get off the couch. You gotta go do it. Amazon's not going to deliver it, I promise. But just think about that for a second. And I know some of you are posting questions. Come back for the Prospecting Q&A after show, which is immediately after this show on the Intuitive Prospector page. Make sure to like the page. Make sure to subscribe. If you want to be a top fan, make sure to interact with the page. That's how you get your top fan badge. Help me get to 30,000 likes. That's where I'm trying to get to this year. I'm at 28,500 almost. So please like the page. Please share out the page. Please subscribe to the page. But good morning to all of you that are posting your questions, top fans and new people. But I'm going to challenge. I'm going to go back to what I was saying about stretching your soul. If you only pick up the things you already can reach right now, rather than reaching for the things beyond you, you will never stretch your soul. Do you want to stretch your soul today? I know I do. I want to carpe diem the crap out of today. So there you go. Make sure to get on my YouTube playlist. This will be going over my YouTube channel, and let's get you a book recommendation. So the book recommendation for this week was The Gnostic Gospel according to St. Thomas. If you want to read something about what really Jesus was saying as well outside of the Bible for a different perspective, read this, because there's some truth nuggets and power in this book. Not very well liked in the religious communities because it's not in the Bible, but I don't believe that all information needs to be contained within one book. I think that's very limited. The other book that I'm reading is The Secret Language of spirit, how to speak like I do as a medium. This book is by William Stillman. Great read. Really have enjoyed this book. A very simple, approachable way to how the spirit world and those in the etheric world can actually interact with us. So it's understanding spirit communications in our everyday life. So that's your book recommendation for this week, and I'm going to try to be doing that more. Your totem animal spirit for the week to pay attention to. Last week it was feathers, and I've just seen a ton of feathers. Now this week you're not going to be happy for this animal as I dropped it on the floor. Sorry, I dropped it on the floor. The snake. So if you see a snake in your pathway, and I know some of you are automatically going to, I hate snakes, I don't like snakes, I get it. But when you're about to go through something significant, personal change is so intense and dramatic that the old self will metaphorically die as a new self emerges. And so the snake is just a reminder that we're always changing. Even at the cellular level, you're thousands and thousands of cells compressed together to create me, to create you, to create your authentic self. And every 5 to 6 years, those cells all die off and new cells grow. So you really are a metaphorical snake if you think about it. You're always shedding skin. Not to be gross, but that's where dust comes from, guys. So make sure to dust your house because that's actually skin that's hanging out. I know that's gross, but it's the reality of it because you are like a metaphorical snake. So, but again, it's telling you that if you've gone through changes, because life is guaranteed to be nothing but constant change, keep up with the waves of change instead of finding yourselves under them and be a big wave surfer, as I have big kahuna, to keep up with those changes, but also shedding the things that no longer serve you. So metaphorically, that's the snake. If it comes into your journey this week, that means that there's something that you've learned and that you're transforming, that you're moving on and to shed things that don't serve your higher self. The card for this week is all about forgiveness. If you want to really stretch beyond and stretch your soul that I was just talking about, stretching your soul. Again, if you only pick up the things you can already reach right now rather than reaching for the things beyond you, you will never stretch your soul. If you want to stretch your soul, guys, you got to move into forgiveness as well. Forgiveness of the past, forgiveness of self, and forgiveness of those around you. So that's your numerology card for the week. The 9, the 96, the 9 represents completion in numerology. The 6 represents focus and dedication to self. So think about those for a little bit. And then last but not least, before we get ready for the prospecting Q&A after show, is the ruby. I want to give you the prospecting stone. If you have never worked with a crystal, you've never worked with a stone, highly recommend it to help with your journey, your health, your mindset. The ruby itself, and it can be just, it doesn't have to be a ruby ring. It can be a ruby ring, but it can just be just a stone. They're usually red in general. They are sourced in Russia, Cambodia, Mexico, India, so they're very well known. I always recommend the uncut raw when you're working with crystals versus the polished. The polished usually you can wear for necklaces, but the unpolished is usually for holding on to or having around you. But the ruby is excellent stone for energy, just plain and simple. Energy, energy, energy. It's a vigor to life stone, as I like to call it. And again, if we're trying to carpe diem the crap out of today, why not put a ruby in your pocket, a ruby crystal in your pocket, and actually just have this energy that invites vigor to life and it energizes and balances. That's the power of the ruby. So that's what I recommend to you today. The snake is your metaphorical, shedding of things that no longer serve your higher authentic self and moving into the things that you want. And again, if you only pick up the things you can already reach right now rather than reaching for the things beyond you, you will never stretch your soul. And Robert Browning's poem reminds us that, a person's reach should exceed their grasp. So I hope you enjoyed today's show. Stick around. In about 30 seconds to a minute, we're going to be getting into the prospecting Q&A after show. I just want to thank you for hanging out with me. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week. Again, you can find me at marclainhart.com. Internet search The Intuitive Prospector. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great rest of your week. And until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate. Namaste.